All right, welcome into a new episode of the Glue Guys. I'm Landon. That's my dad, Richard, and we got an exciting episode for you guys today, and I'm looking forward to it. But first off, how are you doing? I see you're in a new location, looking a little comfy down there.
I am comfy, and I'm in a space in the house that I don't normally sit. I'm usually in the office when we do these, and but in this area right now, this is so cozy that I'm worried I might doze off. But
No.
you have promised an exciting,
Yes,
riveting show, so of course it's gonna keep me wide awake, right?
we have a great show. We will have the man who is coming in clutch for Kansas the last couple of days, Ochai, on to talk a little bit, and then later in the show, Matt. I want to hear you say Ochai's full name though. You gotta give it a shot at least. So do you know the full name? Okay,
I
go
do.
ahead.
Yes. So yes, I do.
Oh,
So
you're not
anyway,
gonna give
no,
me.
I got it. All right. So Ochai Agbaji.
Agbaji, I think is.
Agbaji.
We'll ask. But anyways, no, it's an exciting episode. There's a lot to talk about. If you're anywhere near Kansas or a Kansas fan, the weekend and Monday was some of the craziest. It was probably the most stressful three sporting days back to back to back. Most fans have been through. You had the Kansas State game that was close, came down to the end. Game winner by Ochai, and then you got one of the best football games I've seen. Did you get a chance to watch the end of that?
Oh, I was riveted to it. It was amazing.
Oh, God, I have not seen an ending like that where you had two quarterbacks who were playing at an all-time high level. And we may have some time later on to get into it a little bit more, but you had that game, and then you come back the next night to a game that for a little bit seemed like, okay, this is in hand. I was unfortunately switching off to, I had people, we wanted to start The Bachelor, we were like, all right, let's go ahead and we're up 12, we're good. And the next thing you know, I look at my ESPN app and it's a 2-point game, ends up going into double overtime just to top everything else. Let's go into double overtime. And then again, Ochai with some big shots, some big minutes from KJ Adams. There was, a lot to talk about there. So I don't want to get too far into things because we have such great guests on today. So I want to go ahead and get started right away and bring in our first guest, Ochai, and start asking him a little bit about this game and a little bit about himself.
Great.
Good.
What's up, man? Can you hear us?
Yeah.
How you doing, man? Have you fully recovered at all from the last few days and the craziness that happened in the last couple of games for you?
And kind of. We had our off day yesterday, so got to get my feet under me finally. But it's kind of good to have a couple days off. We're gonna practice today and tomorrow, but just have a couple days off and just relax and get our feet under us, like I said. So.
Yeah. Well, my first question to you is, coming off of big games, I've played in some big games, especially at the field house. There's so much going on. Oh, did we lose you?
Oh, I'm here.
Coming off of those big games, there's so much going on. You get kind of caught up in the hoopla, all the media and stuff post game. And it's not really until I would get home and, put my stuff down and sit in bed and be in my own thoughts where I would realize like, wow, that was crazy, So I'm asking you, when does that time usually come for you? And after, this last game, which was career high, crazy double overtime game, what were your thoughts in that moment?
Yeah, like you said, I didn't really, it all happened so fast, like when you're on the court, all that, and then you kind of get back to your room, maybe watch the highlights, but then it didn't really hit me until the next day when I woke up because it was kind of a late game. So I went just straight to sleep after that because I was like exhausted, but it didn't hit me till the next day. And I was like, man, that we just played in a double overtime game. And I actually still wasn't even over the fact that we came back from 16 at K-State. So I was like, just a weird weekend, but it was a really fun, really fun weekend. A really, really good test in both games for us that I think that we need moving forward. So it's always special to have that especially, you know, getting a road win and then coming home and getting a win over a really good ranked opponent.
So, Ochai, you and I have not met. Most of our guests that have been on the show thus far, I've known because of Landen and Landen's time there. So nice to meet you. And so one of the things that I wanted to ask is, tell us about your journey to choosing Kansas, because I don't know your history at all. How did you end up at Kansas as a player?
I was recruited by Coach Rob Norm here, and it was I was kind of a late bloomer my senior year. Didn't really have all the Power 5 Division I offers, you know, junior year, senior year, but like not until maybe like the last semester of my senior year, KU started recruiting me like heavy. So all these other Power 5 schools started recruiting me heavy. And finally they offered me, and I think not even maybe 2 days after Coach Self offered me, I took it. Was really just blessed and honored to you know, play at this program, to play under him, a Hall of Fame coach. So I was like, man, like I always like that challenge of just kind of being underrated. Always been underrated. So it's like that, you know, coming in here with I think in my class I was with 3 different McDonald's All-Americans. So it's like, you know, you can get caught up in, man, I'm not going to play. And then I found out I was going to redshirt. And then you kind of just go through a journey, and you're just, you know, you always kind of stay ready. That's what I've learned from my time here. Just always stay ready, because, you know, that next man up mentality does actually take effect, you know, when they pull my red shirt, or you need guys to step up in different areas. So that's something I've learned in my journey through high school, and obviously coming back full circle now when I'm a senior, just all the hard work that I put in. You know, it's just this success is, you know, it's always been based on that hard work, and I just kind of always go back to that. So,
well, you talked about it a little bit, you know, coming out of high school, not as highly recruited as, you know, some of the other guys in your class, the McDonald's All-Americans and stuff. Then you end up redshirting, as I did. And I know, you know, during my redshirt year, it's tough to stay ready, but you did, and come out, make an impact. Now, 4 years later, you, in my eyes, best player in the country. You're making, you know, your mark on Kansas in such a extreme way. You know, the same way that Frank Mason did, you know, his senior year when I was playing with him and stuff. Was this something that you saw kind of coming, or are you exceeding some of your own expectations that, you know, when you were a freshman, when you were thinking about redshirting, did you see yourself in this spot, or is that even, you know, exceeding that?
I would say exceeding it by far. I think it was either my freshman or sophomore year. You know how we do 2-on-1 passing in practice, just kind of like that warm-up stuff. I was just going, closing out. Coach Self comes over to me, and he's like, you're going to be an All-American one day. And I'm like, you know, he just says stuff like that. And I look at him, I'm like, okay. But man, that was my sophomore year, and I haven't actually forgotten that even now. And I think it's even crazier now that he said that to me then, because it's like he saw my work, he saw my work ethic and my attitude, and he knew it was just going to pay off in the right way someday. So
Ochai, one of the things that, as you know, we're glue guys. So when you're a glue guy like us, basically what happens is that, you know, you want to get some buckets, but if a bucket doesn't come for a while, it's not a big deal as long as we're getting rebounds and doing all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, I always wondered from those perimeter guys like you who really, you know, like and have the ball in your hands quite a bit, you know, against, I believe it was K-State, you went for a long time without actually scoring very much. And then you had a thing right there at the end. What was that like? I mean, were you feeling the pressure like, yo, man, give me the ball? Or, you know, tell us your thoughts during that game.
Really just it was long game mentality. We came into the locker room, obviously down 16, 17 at that point, and it was just like, man, there's no 16-point play. We kind of just have to, you know, grind and scrap at this the second half. It's not going to be easy. They had their runs still in the second half. We had our runs, but we kept it close. And then you know, last minute or last second, you know, when we took the lead there, it was just like I had that mentality. Even in that stretch, maybe last 2 minutes or so, I was just like, I just need to be aggressive downhill, attack. You know, that's the one thing that's really hard to guard, because it's like either you're going to foul or I can, you know, get to the basket and get a bucket. stuff like that. So just thinking that way, and I kind of instilled that with my team, kept everybody focused and laser focused, even in those moments, because, we needed stops and to execute on the other end, which we did. So I kind of always, give my credit to my teammates because they always help me, as far as finding my spots or getting to my spots or, finding me when I'm open, stuff like that. So I'm always giving the credit to them, but it was just a tough battle.
Now on this show, we tend to talk a lot about bigs because we're bigs. We love talking about bigs, and that's been a hot topic for the team this year. I want to ask you, what has been your message like to those bigs? And the second part of that question, there's been a lot of rotating and kind of uncertainty about who's going to be getting a majority of the minutes. Do you feel like this team can continue forward kind of playing a hot hand, or do you think that you guys are going to need to settle on, somebody who's playing a majority of the minutes to get that chemistry?
Nah, I wouldn't say really. I think we have confidence all through all of our bigs, all the bigs that we put out there. I think we always have confidence in them. We see it in practice. All our bigs work hard in practice. We play through them. They're really good screeners too, as far as like helping other guys, the perimeter guys out. But really, we just have, I think that confidence, is instilled in those guys, Mitch, KJ, Zach, and Dave, just all those guys, to make plays, just be aggressive, rebound, and do their job, kind of like you're saying, glue guy. Do those little things that, always don't show up on the stat sheet, energy plays that we need. So, I always trust those guys, and I have their back. So
we have to start calling you Mr. Clutch, right? I mean, I don't know if you have any other nicknames, but we got to call you Clutch. So you've had a couple games now, and you've proven it now over multiple games that put the ball in my hands, and I'm ready to take the big shot. Is that something that you've always done in your career when you were in high school and even before that? I mean, were you like, give me the ball, step aside, let me do my thing?
Not really. It's kind of I kind of a little bit in high school, I would say, junior year, senior year, but even before that, I was kind of one of those guys that was like always deferring. Even my time here in my past seasons, obviously, the makeups of our team were different. I didn't have that certain role of being that closer guy, but this year, I don't know if you knew this stat, but 3 different guys on our team have had go-ahead buckets. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I think it was DeJuan Harris first against Iowa State, and then Christian at Oklahoma when he hit that game or go-ahead 3. So we have guys that make those plays, so that gives me even more confidence to make those plays, knowing that, if I'm decisive about where I'm going or getting to on the floor, if that isn't open, I can trust my teammates to make the same play, for the team and all that. So it's just that, that trust and chemistry that we have on our team. They have all that confidence in me, and that's kind of just, where I'm riding on this high right now.
What would you say, and I know it's hard, like when you're in the moment, you're just kind of focusing next game.
Yeah.
What would you say if you had to like settle down and think about things when you're, a parent and you're talking to your kids or your grandkids and you're talking about your time at Kansas? What would be some of the like top memories or things that you would share with them? Like what comes to mind as something like, man, this is something I can't wait to just reminisce about?
All the Coach Self stories. There's a bunch. You have a bunch. I have a bunch. There's always the Coach Self stories, the games, the wins, obviously the losses. Those hurt, but I think you learn a lot about yourself and as yourself and as you're growing as a man, about not being too high or too low. I think that's one thing that every Kansas player, even any college basketball player, kind of goes through, is just not being too high or too low when you're competing and stuff like that, night in, night out, because it is that next game, next play, next possession mentality. So that's something that I've just learned, and I think down the road when I'm looking back on this, that's the one valuable thing that I can take in, past basketball and just into my lifetime as a human being. So
I wanted to chat a little bit about just KU in terms of the fans. I will tell you that I personally have been to games at Gonzaga. I've been to games at Cameron Indoor. I've been to games, some of the best fans in the country in college basketball. And I may be biased in this, but to me, Allen Fieldhouse has the best environment.
by far.
Goosebumps. So tell me what does it mean like to be a player in an atmosphere like that?
It means a lot. It means a lot. Kind of just that you're going out like when you're walking on the court there and you have your five out there on the court. It's like that five is the five that's representing the school, the program, Coach Self, all these fans, every single fan and every single supporter of this school throughout the whole entire nation in the world. So it means a lot, like just wearing Kansas across your chest. Guys have a lot of pride in that. And I think that just is how our school works, just based off pride and taking that Kansas pride and playing for the best fans in the country. I think it's because for example, why I think Kansas fans are the best in the country. You'll look at, so we'll play at K-State and their whole arena is packed and all that. And then the next game they'll play TCU and it's like dead. But yeah. So our fans will play TCU on a Tuesday night and it'll still be sold out. So that's something that I think is really special. Not a lot of people get to say that they have the best fans in the world. So it's really an honor. Yeah.
Well, we do some like story time type stuff. We've gotten the people who I've got a chance to play with, some from before, but you came, the years after, and during my time there, I remember so many, like you said, Coach Self stories, team stories. I remember the time, like things that come to mind are when Andrew Wiggins went from the fro to cutting his hair and came down into the pregame before. I think he played Duke, and the team was just clowning him and stuff, like that kind of stuff. There was a fight between JoJo. I'll talk about this on the podcast some other time, but between JoJo and Nico about over the brownies. Do you guys still do the brownies on the?
We don't. We stopped that.
Oh, but anyway, so I want to ask you, like, what is there some memory or something that isn't really is maybe between you and teammates, or you and a coach that you are going to remember or that sticks out to you?
Man, we've had a lot. I don't know if you've had as much or as many like airline issues.
No,
for some reason,
I heard you guys had a ton though.
for my 4 years here, I forgot who we fly with, but our charter company has always had problems either with a delay or like a jet. But I remember we were playing at Stanford and we flew out after the game, all that kind of normal. We're getting back to Lawrence and we're about 20 minutes into the flight. And all of a sudden, I had my headphones on, but I was still awake. All of a sudden, we kind of just feel like this rumble, and like everyone just kind of like shoots up out of their seat and like looks around. And all I remember is Mitch and Chris were like looking out the window, like staring out the window, like pointing, and the engine's on fire. Like the engine blew up straight up 20 minutes into our flight. So we're like looking around, and I kid you not, maybe there's about like a span of 5 minutes where everyone was like looking around like, okay, like what's going on here? The flight attendants was like, they were like walking down the aisle back and forth, checking up all here because it was kind of shaking and all that. But everyone was just looking around kind of like worried. I was sitting next to David and I was kind of getting a little anxious, and I was like, what's going on? What's going on? He was like, we can technically fly with one jet like engine because there's 3 or something like that. So there's an extra one. So after that, I was kind of calm, but everyone else was freaking out at that point. So airline issues, delays, but that one I think is the most like memorable because after the thing or the engine had exploded, they were like, all right, we're just going to turn around. We're just going to fly back to California. So we flew back and stayed the night there at Stanford. And that was just a fun time because, you know, you're used to flying back and being home in Lawrence that same night, but we got to stay over in California for extra day. And it was over break, so it was fun. But that was kind of the craziest experience I've ever had on an airplane, obviously with the whole entire team and the program there. So, yeah.
So you guys are ranked in the top 10 in the country. Things feel like they're starting to, I don't know if mesh or gel or whatever you want to call it, because it does seem like these late game heroics where you guys are pulling it out, it almost feels like it's preparing you for kind of these, you know, deep runs into, you know, the Big 12 and all that. How good is this team? How good is this team in your opinion?
Really good, really good. I think our depth is something that you know gives us a different look every single game. Guys like that next man up mentality that I was talking about. Guys are stepping up in big games. Multiple guys are stepping in big games, helping the team win in any way they can, whether it's be playing 6 minutes or playing 30 minutes. Everyone's role on this team is solidified, and I think everyone understands the role, and I think that's something really special about this squad is everyone understands the role down to the walk-ons, down to to Ramsey and our weight trainer, and I think everyone's just kind of aligned in the sense where we all have that one goal of a national championship, a Big 12 conference championship, just exceeding all of our what would you call it? Exceeding all of our expectations. I think this year, I think just being successful in everything we do and how we move, how we practice. I think everyone's just focused, especially right now, and locked in, because I think our next 4 games are really, I think that would be a deciding factor in the conference, or our next 4 games. So we're really focused for that.
All right, last question, then I'll let you go. You got Kentucky coming in. This is a fun game. I always enjoyed it. I know it doesn't have to, you know, impact your league at all, but it's just a fun game as a player. What are your keys to winning it? And, you know, how are you guys going to get this dub and then move on to a really tough Big 12 schedule back into it after that?
Yeah. Rebounding, man. Oscar, he's a monster down there. We played him obviously a couple times. I believe 4 times in conference when he was at West Virginia. He's a rebounding monster. Just gotta, you know, maybe put 2 guys on him, or just like have one guy that's like dedicated to boxing him out, taking him out off the glass. But really just playing with our own tempo during the game, not letting them dictate anything, being aggressive right from the gate and throughout the rest of the game. I think that's something that we need to really focus on as we try to get better throughout these games, and, you know, not let teams kind of come back and keep it close. Obviously, you want a solid win. A win is a win, and, you know, obviously in our eyes. But just being focused going to this game, being aggressive, playing our game, I think that's all we can do, and just go have fun.
Yeah, tell those bigs to box his ass out.
Yeah, exactly.
man.
I'll be down there too.
Yeah,
we'll have all the wings down there.
Oh man, well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I know that it's been a crazy week, and it's going to get even crazier for you as you get deeper into things. So, you know, I appreciate the time, and go ahead and rest up and get ready for this weekend.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Right,
I appreciate y'all having me on here. So,
of course.
Thanks for joining.
All right, y'all. See you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Before we move on, let me tell you a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers. If you haven't yet signed up, now is the time, because they're offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. Be sure to check out betrivers.com today by downloading the app. You must be 21 years or older, and if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Well, that was fun. It was nice getting a chance to talk to him. I always like talking to, you know, the current players as well, to kind of get the inside scoop perspective for them. You know, it's tough because as a player, it's a completely different perspective. You don't really look at it, you know, from anything other than what's next, you know. And so it is nice to talk to him. And
yeah. Well, I can tell you one thing is that for us, we have to give us a little pat on the back. Well, you in particular, because you're the one doing all this stuff. Because think about this. This is the guy is the man of the hour. And, there's highlights on ESPN and all this other stuff. And guess where he's at? He's on the Glue Guys. So
yeah, we're small, but we got some pull,
We're small but mighty, right? So,
Yeah.
we're bringing some hard edge content here. So anyway, congrats for pulling that coup off.
Yeah, and now we have Matt Tait on, who he's going to come up next and give us a little bit more of an inside scoop. We can ask a little bit more hard hitting questions towards him. And I got some as well. So let's go ahead and bring on Matt and get started with him. You got it?
Yeah, man. Going.
Pretty good. How are you doing?
All right. You hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to start off by getting your opinion so far, on the state of Kansas and Kansas basketball and where we're at, now having a little bit of a break in league play and playing Kentucky and then getting back to league after that. Where do you think Kansas stands at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, they're in a better spot than they were a couple of weeks ago, right? I think that this last 2 weeks or maybe even 3 weeks has been huge for just their mindset, their toughness, their mentality, and really their belief in who they are and what they can be. They still got a ways to go. You guys see that, of course. But those things, after the way the last couple of weeks have gone and winning those close games and just finding a way, I think those things that they still have to tweak or fix or work on, I think now they seem doable, right? Because it's not about can we win? It's about, well, how do we now maximize what we are? And maybe that's an extra, focus here, focus there, tweak this, tweak that. And all of a sudden, instead of winning by one and having to put every ounce of energy you have into that win, maybe you feel like you can win by 7 or 8 and have a kind of an easier time at the end. So I was thinking about that this morning, though. When you think about the toughest teams that they've had, it sort of comes to mind like somebody like Thomas Robinson, right? Just physically tough, but I think these guys are just as tough as any team right now, and it's as much to do with this as anything. They are taking on the characteristics, I guess, of their best player and their leader, and that's Ochai Agabaji, and that's where he's the toughest. He just stays right there, and I think that rubs off on the rest of them. So, they've got a tough schedule. They've got a long road still, but I think they should feel really good about where they are compared to where they were when they lost to Tech. That was still a team trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Matt. So I'm a parent of a KU alum, and so I used to watch and read and the things that you did during Landen's time.
Here it comes.
No. Full disclosure, I don't watch and read much anymore of that. But I will tell you that you've been around the program for several years. So where does this team, do you think, compare with some of the teams that you've covered over the last how many years you've been doing this?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think I think the answer is incomplete right now. Obviously, the biggest answer is going to be they'll rank where they rank when the season's over, right? And if they get to the Final Four, that'll rank them higher. Just even if they don't belong, that's where they'll rank, because that's what it's about with this program and, of course, with the fan base too. But in terms of talent and the depth that they have and the pieces that they have, coming into the season, I thought they were going to be one of the deepest teams we'd ever seen. I mean, I think that freshman class is really talented, and I thought those guys were going to be able to play early and get some more minutes that made them more comfortable. And in some ways they did, but that just hasn't been sustained as we've seen in conference play, which Coach Self typically does, right? The bench gets a little shorter, and all of a sudden those guys are having a hard time getting minutes or consistent minutes anyway. So, I think at this point it's about their horses, and their horses, outside of having that true intimidating inside presence, I think their horses are as good as any, maybe. I mean, I think when you look at what Ochai's doing, you can't argue with what he's doing. I mean, his numbers and his consistency and his production and just what he's been able to do is phenomenal. And it couldn't happen to a better kid. I mean, you guys know that. He's just such a terrific young man, and he's put in his time, and he's He's been patient, much like Landen was with his time, and it's paying off in a lot of the same ways. I don't know that Landen went for 37 ever, did you?
I don't think so. No,
but I know you believed you could. I know you believed you
well,
could.
What was so interesting, we actually just spoke with him before you, and one of the things that got my attention was I asked him, did he see this coming? And he said no. He's exceeding his own expectations by far.
Wow.
And that was surprising to me a little bit, but I can understand, that he wasn't highly recruited. Then he comes into Kansas, starts off as a redshirt, now is taking over this extreme role and having a season that's, similar to Frank Mason's senior season and, the season that T-Rob had and stuff, it's so cool to see, him have this chance to just blow past his own expectations. And now he's kind of in like this uncharted territory in his own mind where he's doing things he wasn't even expecting to do. And like you said, it couldn't have happened to a better guy. And it's really fun to see him grow and take over games like he is and, become somewhat of a KU legend. And if he continues in this, path that he's on, he definitely will be.
Yeah, you're starting to see that, right? I mean, like Keith Langford was on Twitter the other day, and Keith's an old man compared to Ochai, but he said, I don't care what the numbers are. I'll be happy to go down the list if this kid passes me because he's earned it. And I mean, that's cool stuff right there. I mean, and that's what you guys always talk about with the family and all that, right? I mean, they probably don't know each other all that well. They obviously haven't spent a ton of time around each other, but Keith from afar is going, hey, this is pretty cool. And it is cool. I mean, that shot he hit the other night tells you everything you need to know. If there's a such thing as like a Heisman moment or whatever, a player of the year, if he ends up winning that thing, you'll look at that game and maybe that shot as, wow, that might have been where it really got real for him. And I mean, it reminded me a lot of Svi's shot against Duke in the Elite Eight there. I mean, just buried it. And I walked out with Ochai after the presser, and I asked him if he watched it go down and just to make sure he saw it. And I'm sure he's seen it 100 times on replay by now. But he said, I kind of watched it, kind of saw it go in, but I was trying to get back on defense. Classic Ochai, classic Bill Self player right there. And I told him, I said, well, I've seen you make a lot of shots, man, and I know you've made hundreds more that I haven't seen, but that was the purest shot you've ever hit. And he said, you think so? I said, no, I'm telling you it was. This is not up for debate. Yeah. It was unbelievable. And to do it in that moment with that much on the line and they lose the game, he misses the shot, they could still win the national championship. That didn't end it all, but it kind of feels like that. I mean, every game with KU, it feels like the stakes are that high. And right now I think they're trying to get on a roll. They didn't get on this kind of roll last season until very late, and it was largely because of their defensive changes late, and then it just didn't continue. But right now they're finding it a little bit earlier. It's a little bit later than normal, right? I mean, this is late January instead of early January, but they're still trying to really embrace that idea that let's get this thing rolling now, and then it'll pay off down the road. And shots like that keep it going. I mean, he misses that shot, they spend the rest of the week wondering, doubting, questioning. He makes the shot. They win a game maybe that they should have lost the way it ended up. And now all of a sudden another ranked win against a good team. And Kentucky comes to town on Saturday. So good luck. Coach said, you might not have heard this, but Coach said he was going to give him off until Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, after that.
I believe it. He's usually pretty good about that, especially with the guys who played a lot of minutes. I could see it being more of a shooting practice type thing, if anything, today. Maybe some film. He always, you got to at least watch some of the film back, right. And then, take it pretty light, I would guess, even for the rest of the week leading up to another. I mean, it's going to be a grueling battle again, especially inside with the big fella.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite games of yours was at Rupp.
Against
Mine too.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that was. I mean, that for one, you guys won that game, obviously, but that was where. You as a legend of walling up kind of was born, I think, right?
I always tell the story that morning I think I was with Frank and we were watching Game Day, and Jay Billis was talking about they had like an over under of how many points he was going to score, and he was averaging like 30 in the first few games of the conference or something.
Yeah.
And the over under was like 32 and a half or something. And Frank looked at me, he was like, "You gonna let him score 32?" I'm like, no chance. Like, that's not happening. And I took that personally. And when we went into the game, that was obviously a real fun one for me, because I like those kind of challenges. And that was, game day being there, Bam, after coming off the big streak of games he had. I enjoyed that a ton as well.
You had a little offense that game too. I remember a couple of big dunks.
I think I outscored him.
Yeah.
Outscored him and out-rebounded, and it was fun. I enjoyed that one.
No doubt. Yeah, they'll have a blast. I mean, you know the deal with that game, right? Coach says it doesn't matter. We get to have fun with it. And of course, it means a lot to the fans. But if we win, we lose, it doesn't mean anything for the Big 12 or our season or anything. So it is cool. Can you do that? I mean, is that can you really take a break and kind of separate that game out, or it doesn't work from the player perspective?
I would say, I mean, it's still Kentucky. They're still coming in. And, it's still game day, I believe. Like it's still, you're going to go out there and treat it just like any other game. I could see them really focusing on it, even though he's talking about league play and it's just for fun and stuff. It means a lot to the program. It means a lot to the players, and I'm sure it means a lot to Coach Self as well.
Well, that's why you go to a place like Kansas, is to play in these big games.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I know that it's super important for those players. But, we were talking about bigs, and, we're the glue guys. We talk about bigs a lot. But we were talking to Ochai earlier, and we were talking about the situation now that's kind of going on with that 5 spot and that rotation. Is it Mitch? Is it Dave? Who's going to be the big? And so Ochai, to his credit, said the right things about, we have confidence in all of them, and it doesn't matter who they put out there. We're good. But what Matt, what do you think? I mean, who does give the best chance for KU to win in that starting spot?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be Dave, but it has to be Dave the right way. I mean, he's got it. He's capable of doing it. I've been really surprised that as you guys know, he turned it around last year after a rough start, a rough first half, and then he was really good. I mean, really good. Not just better, but really good, and all Big 12 type of good. And so I talked with him this offseason about, every game last year when things went well for him, he came into the post game and he said, well, I just played with a free mind, a free heart. And that was his mantra. And he kept saying it, and good for him, because without it, obviously it was scattered in there. And so he needed to identify that and find out what worked for him. And he did. But it kept coming up. And so going into this season, I asked him in the off season of the preseason, explain to me what that means. Like, it's easy to say it, and I think we kind of all know, what you're getting at when you say free mind, but like, let's go into it a little bit more. Let's dive into it. And I haven't written that story yet. I'm waiting on it, and I'm planning to do it still. I just haven't had time. The season got going and kept rolling, and everybody wants to worry about Remy every day. So let's jump back on that when I get some time. But I remember him saying, it's about, not just your focus and not just the noise, but it's about, believing in yourself and going in with a plan and having the focus of just being comfortable. And so I really thought that Dave was going to pick up where he left off, and there'd be no reason for him not to, but I think with Dave, the pressure gets to him, and not the pressure of like what's at stake and everybody looking at him, but the pressure from inside of he just wants to do so well. I mean, he's another terrific young man, and he's so nice, and he's so intelligent, and he's so kind. And I mean, he wants to be perfect, and you can't be perfect. I mean, everybody that's played knows that, right? I mean, Frank Mason, National Player of the Year, he wasn't perfect, right? And Ochai hasn't been perfect this year. So I think once he kind of shed that away and understood maybe, and was a little more comfortable with realizing, I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be good and play hard and do what they need me to do. I think that's been kind of what the last couple of weeks have been. His numbers haven't wowed you. There's been very little that you've seen that makes you go, oh, that's their horse. They got to ride him. But his production's been there. He's put up decent numbers, and I think more than anything, he's avoided the mistakes and looking like he's lost and rattled out there. You haven't seen that as much in the last couple of weeks. And so I think when you look at Ochai and CB and Jalen and what they're able to do now, that trio is as good as any and as reliable as any. And so it takes the rest of it down a notch. Remy doesn't have to be the Pac-12 player of the year. Remy has to be good and fill a role. Dave and Mitch and KJ, they have to just fill that role. So I think it's still Dave that's got to be where it all starts. But I think if he can hold down his part of it, then I think Mitch does what he does best. And that's, come in off the bench, give a few minutes, give some energy, talk a little trash, block a couple shots, and go sit down again and smile about it, smirk about it, I should say. And then that allows KJ to have even less pressure on him when he's in there. And he obviously was terrific the other night. So that idea of what coach wants of 20 points and 12 rebounds from that 5 spot, I mean, I don't think that should be hard at all from those 3 guys. They don't even have to play 40 minutes combined to get there. I just think it has to start with Dave, and for him to be successful, he's just got to take that mental edge off and just understand that it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I don't even have to be the guy. I just have to go do something that's productive and helps this team. And I think he's starting to do that. I mean, he was a beast against K-State. That was – you guys had to love watching that. I mean, he had 7 offensive boards in the first, 6 minutes, and you could just tell it was going to be his type of day. And that's the point again, right? Like, who won that game? Well, Ochai won that game, and Jalen won that game, and they were so clutch. But Dave did his part and then some and was a factor. But nobody walked out of there going, well, he was the best player or he's the player of the year. He's all Big 12. They just realized he did what he had to do, and that helped the team win. So I think the way they've got it set up right now is part of the reason they're clicking. And that's, Dave's a starter, and he's the guy that has to get him going. I don't blame him for experimenting the way they did. He was lost. He's not lost anymore, and I think that helps. So, Dave for 18, 20, 25, Mitch for 10, 12, 14, and KJ for 5 to 7. That probably adds up to 50, but oh well. I'm a writer, not a mathematician, never have been. So, but that's, that feels like finally those roles are kind of falling in line where they should be. And I think it, as much as you shouldn't put any pressure on Dave, or he shouldn't put any pressure on himself, he's a senior. I mean, he's been there. I think he should take some of that on and understand that, I have to be good. I don't have to be great. I don't have to be perfect, but I do have to be good if we want to achieve our goals. And I think he understands that. And again, like last year, is starting to get a little bit more comfortable in his role.
Well, what I would say is, with David, and you mentioned it, having this idea in your mind, I have to be, perfect, or being very hard on yourself. And I experienced that, at moments in my time at Kansas as well. But the thing that fixes that all is shifting your mindset so that you can work on being perfect in areas you have control over. You can go out there and give 100% energy wise, or you can go out there and go after every rebound, or you can go out there and make sure that you're very educated on what the big likes to do on the other team, or there's things you can control. And if you focus on those, it's a lot easier to be perfect, because you can always give the max, and that there's no variance to that you're worried about at all. And so, I would really focus on those things, and then the other things will come. But, if he can just make sure that his mindset is switching to being perfect, that those things he has control over, I think it'll ease a lot of things for him. And KJ, I mean, he came in and looked great in the overtime, and both overtimes, and played great. And, that's somebody who I could see growing into, a role, especially as his career goes on. But even this year, in some games where there may be some foul trouble, there may be a game where Dave just isn't playing, very well. And, Mitch can't play all the minutes because he's in foul trouble. There's times where he could, really make an impact. I think we saw that. But I do have to ask you, because I'm sure you're getting this all the time, about Remy and that whole situation. Get your thoughts on it. I don't know a ton about the situation, but I know what I've seen, and I've seen him, now come off this injury, play really well, in my opinion, the other night. And then I didn't see him play towards the end of the game. I did see a quote on Twitter, I think, that said Coach Self had mentioned, there was nobody he would put him in for.
Right.
But I want to get your thoughts kind of on, the whole situation with Remy, and then, his playing time this last game, and just, how you would handle Remy yourself if you were Coach Self moving forward.
Yeah, it's crazy to me how obsessed people are with this situation. I mean, it's almost like the fan base is so worried about Remy and what's going on there or isn't going on there or whatever, that they're almost allowing that to take away from enjoying Ochai, right? Like, let's not forget that this is possibly an all-timer type of season. And I get it. I get it. Remy's phenomenal. He's electric. He's dynamic. He was terrific at ASU. He was the Big 12 Player of the Year in the preseason for absolutely no reason, but whatever. I get it. People want to see that guy reach his potential and take this team to the next level. And maybe he will. Maybe he can. I mean, I think the injuries haven't helped him any. But this as well as anyone. I mean, he's been around 6 months, Landon. 6 months with Bill Self. That is not enough time to get it figured out or to get it perfected or to have it all settled how you need to be, when, where, how, and all that. I mean, there are guys that have a 4-year Kansas career that don't ever get to that point fully, So to expect him to be there in 6 months when some of that time has also been injured with the knee, and then he had an ankle thing in August before he even could get started. It's just unrealistic expectations in my mind. And I get it. It's exciting, and he's shown flashes, and he's got the energy and the personality. So I understand why people want it so badly for him. But the bottom line is, if Bill Self doesn't fully trust you, you're not going to play. And so I wrote a blog yesterday that was basically like, we're looking at it the wrong way. Like, the fact that he played 22 minutes against Texas Tech, that's the meaningful part, because that's legitimate playing time, So everybody's worried about the minutes he didn't play, but I think let's look at the minutes he did play, and not only how productive he was, like you mentioned. I thought it was his best game all around too. But also, the fact that coach is putting him out there for 22 minutes. If he doesn't want him to be out there, he has control of that. And he would play him a lot less than 22 minutes. So he played 22 minutes that game. That's the second most in a conference game so far this year. The game before against K-State, he played 20. That's back-to-back 20-minute games. I mean, again, I just don't think they need much more than that from him. They don't need him to be 25 points a game, Pac-12 Player of the Year, Remy. They need him to be a guy who can share some of that point guard role with DeJuan and be on when DeJuan's off, or be in when DeJuan needs a rest, or vice versa. And I think that's what they have going right now. So I just don't think it's realistic to expect him to be much more right now. And it's not about it's not about, desire. It's not about, beef. I don't think. I mean, I think it's trust and it's consistency. And right now, Bill Self trusts him enough to play him 22 minutes the other game against the top 15 team. But when the game's on the line, he's going to play the guys he trusts the most. And it's not about, I don't like him or I don't trust that he'll deliver, because he is a gamer. That's what he's been his whole life. But it's about, I don't know that we can trust that he'll be in the right spot every time on defense. I don't know that we can trust that he'll, get the ball to the third side every time down. I think he might go rogue a couple of times. And in a game like that, where it's a one possession type of game, one or two of those missteps can mean the difference between winning and losing. And so he rides with the guys he trusts. And DeJuan wasn't great, but, I think the biggest thing you can point out is DeJuan shot 2 of 10. He kept attacking and kept missing. But two things that DeJuan did that were huge in that game. Well, he attacked the rim and he missed the shot that KJ was able to follow. That was a pretty big moment in that game. And then, when they're down 3 and they need a bucket, he had enough poise to find space to get Ochai that ball for him to hit that shot. It wasn't the best pass anybody will ever see. It's not, a John Stockton type of assist. It's not going to be on highlights forever. Well, the Ochai part will be, so I guess it will be. But I mean, it wasn't anything that wows you, but it was the right play at the right time in the right moment. And he's doing that a lot more, in my opinion, than Remy's doing right now. So I think you give Remy a few more weeks and maybe you can start to expect a little bit more, but 6 months just is not enough time. And the good news is he had a ton of energy. every one of his teammates keeps saying he loves it here. He's all in. He's a part of this team, and we love him. And so I just don't see there's any reason to overthink it and panic about it as the fans are doing, or a lot of the fans are doing. I think just let it be, man, and let it ride and enjoy it and see if he comes along. And if he does, if he has a February that's full of growth and development and gets closer to consistency, well, then you take a pretty good player and a little bit of an X factor into March with you, and maybe that's when it really matters. So I think people just need to, it's sort of that Aaron Rodgers thing, just relax, just calm down and just enjoy what's happening. This team is 17-2, and they're ranked number 5 in the country. That's without Remy being much. So enjoy it, and it's okay. It's okay. And if he gets to be better, then maybe you will be ranked 2 or 3 in the country, or 1, and then things can get really interesting from there. So I think it's been a little bit crazy watching all the fuss. But I'll be honest, like the first 3-4 games of the season, I understand it. That's all I could watch. I had to force myself to watch the rest of the action because I was watching Remy the whole time. I would watch him, and then I'd watch Self, and then I'd watch Remy.
That's how I feel about Biggs and David McCormick.
Yeah, I believe it.
Whenever there's a big in the game, that's all I'm watching is the big go around the court and stuff. But,
right.
Well, I want to finish with this, and this is for both of you, and Dad, you can get us started on it. We do a segment called Sub In or Sub Out. And I want to today ask you both, are you subbing in or subbing out on Coach Self being at Kansas past 5 years? So for more than 5 years. Dad, I'll go ahead and start with you, and then Matt, I'll
go ahead and take this one, and then if my connection drops, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So Dad, what do you think? He has a lifetime contract, I believe that. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm guessing he could be there as long as he pleases.
Until he drops dead, he could be a coach.
Yep. But 5 years, longer than 5 years, are you subbing in or subbing out on that?
I'm a sub out, and I think that if I got that right, I don't think that he will be there as the coach over 5 years from now. And the reason I say that is because I think that he goes to the NBA. I think the draw is going to be too much for him at some point. I think he's going to have that part of him that says, hey, I've accomplished everything that I can do here, especially if they get another national championship. I think that's going to expedite that. And I think there's going to be an NBA team that's going to say, hey, listen, our what we need is we need somebody who can gel and mesh big egos and big time talent and have them work together. And even in situations where you have someone who may have been a big-time scorer, at school, in high school, and they come to KU, and their role is not to do that. And he's able to do I don't know if it's a Jedi trick or whatever it is, to be able to get players to do what he needs in order to give the ultimate outcome, which is a W. So I think the draw is going to be too great. I think the money is going to be too great. And there's going to be a team that's going to say, Bill Self, come on down and lead our organization. So I think he's out.
Wow, subbing out. All right, Matt, what about you? Subbing in or subbing out?
Well, it works out because I've always been told on podcasts or radio that it's not good if everybody agrees. So it works out because I'm gonna sub in on him being here a while longer. I think if you had asked me this maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I might have gone with the other side of this, but I'm not going to call him old by any means, but I think as he's kind of aged, let's put it that way, he's a grandfather now, and things like that are starting to play into his life. I think he's really, I hate the word, but kind of, softened a little bit in terms of just enjoying what he's got. And nobody, he'll tell you this, nobody has a better job in the world in terms of coaching than he does. He believes that, he thinks that, and he's always thought that, right? I mean, it's a big reason he came here, and he's been successful largely because he's never taken that for granted, So I think that as he's aged, he's understood, like, this is pretty cool, man. Why would I not just keep riding this train? Now, full disclosure, I think any college coach that does it on any level anywhere is crazy, because I think recruiting is an absolute nightmare, and I don't know how anybody survives that. I'll never understand it. So my hat's off to every coach that's out there at any level grinding through the recruiting world. But he likes that, and he's good at that, and that fits him too. And he's obviously had tremendous success with it. So, I think you start to see some of the nostalgia kick in too, right? Like he's the king of this town, and he always will be, and people love him. I mean, it's like a family member. You see his father passed away, and everybody here wanted to give him a hug. Every fan, everybody on the street, every mailman, whatever it is, right? And it's the same way when T-Rob lost his mom. I mean, like they all as a fan base just collectively hugged that young man and helped him through it. And that's that KU family thing. And so I think more than ever that's connected and resonates with Coach Self and still means something. And it's hard to walk away from something like that. But you're right. I mean, he's still chasing goals too. I mean, he does not want to be a guy who won a title, because anybody can win a title. You get a good collection of players, or you get a hot streak, or catch a break in the bracket, and you go win one. And a lot of guys have won one, but not very many have won two. Not very many have won more than two, and I think that's that's motivating for him too. So I don't know that it'd be a whole lot longer, but you also look at Coach K stepping away now, Roy done at North Carolina, was just back. I mean, things like that. I think Self for the longest time always believed, and probably in some ways still does, that he's one of the younger guys. He's in that younger guard of coaches, but now he's starting to understand, well, I've got some years on me now, and I'm kind of one of the old vets now. And so you watch what other guys in that position have done in the past, and how they've kind of gracefully phased out and didn't just abruptly do it. And I think there's some appeal to that. Or I should say that appeals to him in some ways. I mean, I don't think he wants to be the guy that gets the farewell tour like Coach K is getting right now. I think Self would say, I'm done and I'm out and I'm going to go golfing and you guys can fuss with the rest, So I don't think it's about that for him, but I think it's just about do this as long as you enjoy it. And I think he's still enjoying it at the highest level. I think he's having a great time with this team and this season. And I think that, he understands that he's got such a great gig, and why give that up if you don't have to? So, I'm not saying he wouldn't do well in the NBA. I think he would do well anywhere, doing anything, but that's just him and his personality. But I'm not sure it would fit him. I think it's those guys those are jobs, and that's a whole different world. You're coaching grown men who can listen to you if they want or not, and tell you, I make more than you, get out of my face. And I don't see stuff like that going well for Coach, man. I mean, I don't think he would want to hear too much of that. Here, these guys listen to him because guess what? He decides if they play or not, and if they have a shot at going to the NBA. So I think he just fits the college game so well that it wouldn't surprise me at all if he finished in the college game and enjoys it the rest of his career, however long that may be. Yeah. Lando, you get to answer?
I would agree with you on that. I think that he's gonna finish here in Kansas, and like you said, he has one of the best jobs. There's people love him. The NBA is something that Dad, you mentioned what he was good at, but as Matt, said, that can come back to bite you when you're dealing with a LeBron or something who's way bigger than anything. You're not going to be able to, have that same amount of control that he does over the players here at Kansas. And so I would agree with you on that. And I would sub in that he's going to be over 5 years.
You're choosing him over your own flesh and blood.
I'm
How
sorry.
about that? I mean, really, have we come to this?
I guess I did okay on some of that coverage, Landon.
Yes.
I mean,
come on. You know what? Thanksgiving's going to be very awkward this year.
You're going to be like, you remember that time on the podcast where you subbed in and I subbed out? No, but Matt, I appreciate you coming on. There's a huge weekend coming up for Kansas sports again. Hopefully it's a little less stressful, but it will be a fun one. I know the Chiefs got a big game on Sunday, I believe, and then there's the Kentucky and then game day on Saturday. So
crazy.
We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. That last Chiefs game was one for the ages. and will be a fun one to continue watching. Them hopefully win another Super Bowl this year. So.
Yeah, there was a lot of buzz on Monday night. Everybody was hoping that Mahomes would be at the Fieldhouse because it was Texas Tech.
Texas Tech, right? Yeah, that would have been fun.
I checked into it and asked a few people, and because he has come, he's been to a few games, and so I asked around and to see if maybe they thought he was going to make it, and everybody was like, "Are you crazy? Like
after that,
he's not going to come into a 16,000 seat COVID factory right before an AFC Championship game."
Yeah, you can't do that. That's
he's bubble wrapped and sitting somewhere, still and watching film and doing what he does. It was phenomenal, though. You're right, though. I mean, the K-State game followed by that Chiefs craziness, and then the Monday night game. I mean, it's been a wild time. I know KU fans, a lot of them have reached out to me and said, I'm exhausted, and I love that. That's what's great about fans, man.
Yeah.
They're out there.
It'll be fun, and I appreciate you coming on and chatting with us a little bit, and we'll have to have you on again maybe later in the season.
Sounds great, man. You guys are doing great work. I appreciate you having me. Enjoy everything.
Good one.
All right, take care, Matt.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was fun. I know we had a little bit of technical difficulties early on, but that second interview went fine. And you had to switch up the spot that you're filming in, so I'm going to blame you for the
it was me, right? It's all me.
It's all you. It's all you. But
you're digging a bigger hole for yourself.
No,
nice job.
I'm not too worried. But no, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to again this weekend and seeing some more football. The football games have all been crazy close that last not wild card weekend, but divisional. It was crazy, and then I'm sure it will be again this week. So looking forward to it, and then hopefully we have a bunch more to talk about next week after the Kentucky game, and I think Iowa State will be the next one after that, and that's always a fun one. So we'll be back again next week to chat a little bit more.
Looking forward to it. This was a good one. This is not that any of the other ones were less than.
I know, right? What's up?
But this one was really good, I think, because of the, having Ochai on is huge because he's the man of the hour at this point in time, and then having the insight of Matt, who's a person who is dissecting, this team.
That's his job.
And that's his job. That's what he's looking for. And so I thought this was a good one. So nice job getting those things set up, and I just my part's easy. I just could show up and ask some questions. This is awesome. Love this.
All right, well, we will be back again next week, and I appreciate anybody who's listened this long and continue to show support. And please, as always, if there's any and we'll continue to improve and continue to get better. Have a good one.
Take care.